Welcome to the Viking Age podcast, the official podcast of the vikingage.com. My name is Chris Schad. I write for the Viking Age as well as the Brookings Register, Bring Me the News, and Zone Coverage. My co-host is Adam Patrick, who is the managing editor of the Viking Age. And we do this every Monday and Thursday right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. Oh, I thought you were saying something.
No,
We
it's
got to throw out
sorry.
there. We can never get an intro right, can we? Like, I was just cruising along. I said it in the wrong order. Then I thought I heard something, and here we are. But we do this every Monday and Thursday right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, don't forget to rate, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we send the word to the masses. Adam, I don't really have any show breakers or other intros to kind of get into, so we're just going to talk about what happened last night because the Minnesota Vikings upset the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. They picked up a 22-17 victory. Kirk Cousins threw for 378 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Jordan Addison caught 7 passes for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Cam Bynum made a pair of interceptions, including a game winner late in the fourth quarter that secured the victory. So I'm just going to ask you point blank, what was your biggest take from the win last night?
My biggest take is that the Vikings can compete with anybody in the NFL. I mean, obviously it helped that they were home. Obviously it helped that Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams were out. At the same time, the Vikings were playing without Justin Jefferson, who I think is a pretty good player.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So if, the 49ers fans want to complain about injuries or whatever, Justin Jefferson being out is a pretty big deal too. But the Vikings, it started off, it looked like it was going to be another one of those disappointing performances full of turnovers. That had the interception on the first drive and looked like the Niners were driving down. They were going to score a touchdown. And then the Vikings, they got the ball back. And then the things just turned around from there. They kept it close, as they usually do. But they've been in every game this year. Especially against the good opponents. They lost by 1 score to the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bucks, the Chargers. All of those losses were within 1 score. They could have won those games easily if a couple of things go their way. But everything seemed to come together last night. The defense played well. They created turnovers. The offense played well. The passing game was excellent. The rushing attack was more balanced. They used Cam Akers way more. They even mixed in some Ty Chandler in there. I want to say Kirk Cousins threw the ball probably to like 8 or 9 different guys. It was just a really good performance. Coaching, I thought Kevin O'Connell had some better play calls last night. I think it was the best performance of the year by the Vikings. But yes, it just shows that if they have to, which they should, they can compete with anybody in the NFL. That's why it's so frustrating, I think, for fans this year to be like, why are they 3-4? Like, they can be. This team is so much better. Yeah. So like,
for the YouTube audience or for the audio audience, I wave towards the camera. But
yeah. So
continue.
Like this team has a bunch of talent, and they shouldn't be 3-4. People probably like they're one of the best 3-4 teams in the league, if not the best. But like that's it doesn't give you any more points than the 3 wins that you already have. So they still have a lot of work to do. This was a big win, and I think the season is going to look a lot different after this win for sure.
I have a lot of micro takes in my big take, but I'm going to stay positive because anybody who saw me on X last night realizes I was kind of a jackass, which par for the course. Yeah, never on. The problem, my co-editor at the Register, Andrew Holton, actually mentioned this. He's like, X is like an echo chamber. And when you disagree with the majority, like it just kind of amplifies because all you're seeing on your timeline is takes that disagree with you and you just kind of fight. So it's kind of like quicksand.
It's also like people see your take like second or third hand from someone else, and so they totally misinterpret probably what you were even trying to get across in the first place.
It's like telephone.
Yes.
I don't know if they still play telephone in grade school.
Yeah.
I'm probably like making myself super old right now, but yeah, that's basically what it's like. First of all, my first micro take is I don't know which ESPN producer decided to have Aaron Rodgers on the Manningcast during a Vikings game.
He
Just
didn't
like
play he didn't play for the 49ers either. So like
no, I know you're super desperate to get Aaron Rodgers on in any way
Mhm.
possible. ESPN is actually, I believe Pat McAfee is
He'll be on
paying
today,
him
right?
for his, and he'll sit there and he'll be like, I was sitting there the other night and my microphone wouldn't work. And I couldn't exactly say what I wanted to say as I was shooting across the galaxy on the Starship Pain and loading all the rocket fuel with warriors. Like, oh my fucking God. Like, why? Like I'm
Couldn't
like
get
that
John
Roman
Randall.
Reigns clip, like go away
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. They couldn't get John Randall, couldn't get Randy Moss, Chris Carter, any of those guys. Like you couldn't get
Who else was on there? Did you see? I was done after I
Clay
saw
Thompson
Rodgers.
was on there and Tiffany Haddish. So they had no Vikings related guests at all in the first Manningcast for a Vikings game. They had 0 Vikings related guests. So that was pretty awesome.
What is Tiffany Haddish just a
She's a
Niners
comedian.
fan? Yeah, I know who she is, but
I have no idea.
they just randomly booked someone.
She could be, I guess. I don't think she's a Vikings fan. I think we would know about that. They could have had Chris Jericho on. They could have Nick Swartzen on. Well, they might have been afraid he might have broke the censor.
Yeah.
But yeah, there
were options.
You can't get a Vikings guest on, so you get one of their biggest rivals of all time to come on. That's great. I did
should have just called Dan Campbell. Like it would have been more entertaining.
Just get Sean Payton on there too.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy
Drew Pearson. What do you think about this game?
Gary Anderson, welcome back.
We're going down a slippery slope.
I did enjoy Aaron Rodgers' reaction to the Jordan Addison second touchdown catch. Him and the Mannings, they were all just like, "Whoa, what just happened?" So yeah, that was pretty cool. There's a clip of that on YouTube if you can find it. It's like 2 minutes, but it was good because they were all like, "Whoa, no way!"
Like every Viking fan, that saw that play. My take coming out of this game is that the Vikings finally have the infrastructure for their franchise quarterback. Because I think sometimes we get like caught up in the drafting a franchise savior thing. At least several teams do, and then they just have chicken shit around them, and it's just like, hey, go make chicken salad, see what you can do there. The Vikings have an infrastructure to support whoever is their quarterback of the future, because Jordan Addison was absolutely the right pick for this team.
Yeah.
I do wonder if not having Jefferson on the field makes him better in the long run and the Vikings better on the long run, because the first 3 games, it was get the ball to Justin Jefferson, take a deep shot on occasion with Jordan Addison. And obviously Addison has a lot of things to work on. Like I do remember the screen in Carolina where he nearly got Justin Jefferson killed. But watching him last night, he is the type of player the Vikings didn't have at receiver last year.
Right.
You had Justin Jefferson, who was in its own thing, but you didn't have that complimentary guy. And all due respect to TJ Hawkinson.
Don't tell that to some people.
Well, opportunities, obviously. I mean, TJ Hawkinson had a very good game after the Bears game. I thought he was awesome. I think, the whole going down thing. I mean, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman nearly had a stroke over that last night, where they're just like, oh, yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure Hawkinson was gimping around.
He
and that's
was.
why Kevin O'Connell told him to go down.
He didn't want him to be late or off the field. And he also saw, like, I don't have to give up a timeout right now if you go down. So, I saw that more as gamesmanship more than like, because people took it as like, oh, Kevin O'Connell told TJ Hawkinson to fake an injury. Why would he tell him to fake an injury with 9 minutes to go in the second quarter?
Right.
He has plenty of time. He has timeouts. He's not like, let's do this right now. We start conserving time with 9 minutes to go. It's like, no, he was hurt.
Anyway, yeah, Addison.
He's good.
Very good. Somebody compared him to like a better version of Kelly Campbell, which is kind of an interesting
Much better.
comparison. Yeah. Oh, I loved Kelly Campbell.
Yeah.
Like, don't besmirch Kelly Campbell. I love the Afros, but I mean, just a secondary receiver that can ball out and take attention off of Justin Jefferson. So the fact that Addison did that as a number one option last night makes me very excited about his future. There's also the offensive line, who I don't think Ezra Cleveland should see the field in a Vikings uniform again, unless it's due to injury. Dalton Reisner did struggle in the run game, so did the entire offensive line a little bit, but this is a pass first offense. This isn't the Mike Zimmer run the ball 40 times straight up the middle and hopefully Dalvin breaks one type of offense. This is an offense that wants to see Kirk Cousins sling it downfield, make good decisions. We'll talk about that later. But the offensive line, Christian Darrisaw went head to head with Nick Bosa and only allowed 2 pressures on 40 snaps. That's pretty damn good.
And Brian O'Neill too.
And Brian O'Neill did well as well. Kirk overall was only pressured on 16 of 44 dropbacks. I mean, the running game could use a little bit of work. Cam Akers and Ty Chandler were mixing in some more. I don't know if Alex Madison was injured because he kind of took that big hit and didn't really look all right. But whoever the quarterback is, I think they're going to be driving one hell of a car when they show up. And I think at Dante Culpepper in 2000, when he took over, he had Randy Moss, he had Chris Carter, he had Robert Smith, and a very good offensive line. And Denny Green. Yeah. I mean, you could throw Kevin O'Connell in this conversation too. I mean, you can see the form of a new offense taking over. Is Kirk Cousins that guy? I don't know. I don't know. But if it's a different quarterback, I feel confident, even if they take a guy that they really like in the second half of the first round, you could plop him in and be like, you got the weapons. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah. Jordan Addison, actually, when I watch him right now, he kind of reminds me of like early Antonio Brown.
See, and I was trying to shy away from Chris Carter because that's the comparison everybody makes.
What?
But it's a helmet scouting type thing.
No. Like Chris Carter, I don't see any of that. Like I know he's a good route runner and everything, but no, like he just frame wise, Carter, like that's to me too. That's what I'm based on. Like Antonio Brown was more of a smaller type of receiver, and that's what Addison is, and they're both really good route runners. That's what he kind of reminds me of right now. I was thinking I was gonna post something. I might write about it, but like I feel like the Vikings should try and trade KJ Osborne. Like not even really to get anything for him, but just to remove him from like Kirk's options to throw to moving forward. Like
remove the temptation.
Yeah, like just okay, you got when Jefferson returns, which it sounds like he's probably gonna return when the 4 weeks is up, because it sounds like his recovery is going well and it's going better than he thought. So he's going to have Jefferson back. Addison's going to be, playing well still. Hawkinson seems like he's getting back into his groove in the offense. Like, just I don't want Kirk to fall back into like, oh, let's throw to KJ Osborne on critical third downs again, or like when we need to come from behind. No, you have Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. KJ Osborne should not be. He should be your fourth read anytime he's on the field. So that would be like something I might want to consider if I was Vikings. Plus, he's a free agent and he's not going to come back. So, but I don't know what they could get for KJ Osborne. Conditional six. Yeah, like they're not. But that would be for someone who's like in desperate need of a receiver. And I don't know. I haven't looked around teams right now that need that. Oh, maybe the Niners. But yeah, like there's a lot to like about the Vikings, and like you said, they are perfectly set up for a young quarterback or a young experienced quarterback, maybe who needs a change of scenery to come in and just come right in and be the guy. I think they have a lot of options moving forward, and picking the right one is going to be critical. It's probably O'Connell and Adolph Kwesi's jobs are probably going to depend on what they do at the quarterback position this offseason. So, but they do have a lot of options, I feel like.
The other thing that kind of got to me, and this is kind of just moving on here. Like I said, if you saw me on X last night, I wasn't thrilled.
The internet application, by the way, not ecstasy.
Huh? Oh, yes. Yes.
Because you were like, if you saw me on X last night, if someone's just hopping in right now, they'd have been like,
Just
wow, you had fun
feeling
last
good.
night, right?
Yeah, I was really enjoying the Vikings game. I was texting with some friends at the end of that game, and I was just like, when Cam Bynum made the interception at the end, I didn't feel much. I kind of felt,
Yeah,
eh.
you texted me.
Yeah, I texted you and I texted a few other people. And I think I was initially upset about the win because I was letting go of the idea that, hey, maybe we could get Drake May or Caleb Williams. You could still always trade up, but that's another thing. But I need to see them do this again because we have seen this team and this quarterback in particular ride the roller coaster, have games like this, and then fall flat on their face.
Big dump on the field the next week.
I had a conversation with some Twins fans this summer, and they were sweeping the Kansas City Royals. They're pounding the crap out of them.
Oh, I remember this.
Yes, and people clap back at me because they're like, "Why aren't you having this? Is the Roy? We're getting back." And I'm like, I need to see this more because the Twins would go ahead, they would score 10 runs, look like an awesome juggernaut one game, and they would get shut out the next. Well, the next game, they scored like 7 runs, and some guy named Prime Barland, who I guess like get hard off your relievers, I guess. But he was taunting me about it. And then the next day they came out and they scored 0 runs. And I'm like, this is what I was talking about. Like, I need to see it on a consistent basis. And the Twins, for their credit, they wound up doing that and they won the division and their first playoff game in 18 years. The Vikings, this game had a lot of the things the Vikings haven't been doing all year. They got out to an early lead. The defense didn't play on a razor thin margin of error. They made plays when they needed to make them, and they executed when they needed to, which, by the way, offensive genius Kyle Shanahan, who was sitting in the corner probably at the end of the game going like, I miss your sense, Kirk. I miss your Musk. When this is over, we should get an apartment together or something. Like they just looked unprepared. And just looking at them, it was just kind of like, well, what do we do? We have injuries. Like, that the whole offseason they were crying about what happened in the Eagles game. Is like, people get hurt. This is football. You can't just
especially the Niners.
Yeah, you can't just have like all pros and then all of a sudden, well, they got hurt. What are we supposed to do? Like that, shit happens.
Did you hear? I think it was Aikman or Buck. One of them said like the Niners they practice harder than most teams in the league. I'm like, well, that makes a ton of sense. That's why they're always hurt. It reminds me of like Mike Zimmer's. Adam Thielen almost like slicing his ankle open before the playoff game because, we have to go hard before the playoffs. It's like, if guys keep getting hurt, don't you think maybe you should not practice a certain way? But I guess
the brakes a little bit, but
guys are used to a certain way. Kyle Shanahan, man, we talked a little bit about this last night, but like, Kirk Cousins, you brought it up like you could have had this and like
Kirk Cousins
like
basically put on the red dress last night and just like dancing on the stage and stuff, just like it's Kyle Shanahan,
the one that got away
in the back of the bar having a beer, just like yep.
The one that got away. Now Shanahan's at home. He's got 3 kids and a family, and Kirk Cousins is out there having the time of his life.
Just sitting there in a locked room watching the game tape from last night. Hey, coach, what do you think? Huh? No, I'm not watching anything right now. Why are you watching Vikings? Yeah. What's going on in here, coach? But also they got decent effort from the running game. Alex Madison, 8 carries, 39 yards, just under 5 yards per carry. Cam Akers wasn't great on the ground, but he had a couple of nice screens in there. And then Ty Chandler mixing in. And then you also have your defensive line getting after Brock Purdy. Like, I felt like there was a ton of pressure. And part of that's because Trent Williams was out. I understand that. But, I mean, it's one guy on the line. Like, the rest of the offensive line isn't what it has been for San Francisco.
Right.
So, I mean, there are a lot of positives that you can look. But my thing is, if they come out against the Packers and they look like dog shit and just face plant, this isn't worth it. Like, this isn't. So, like, in my mind, you 100% have to beat the Packers next week for me to fully get on board. and I'll be cheering for him to beat the Packers because shit, I hate the
Well,
Packers.
everyone hates the
So
Packers.
yeah,
And I wouldn't be. I know people are like might be like they have to go out and they got to blow them out. They got to blow out the Packers and make a statement. I don't. I don't think that's probably going to happen. I think it's going to be close. It's a divisional game. It's on the road, and they're coming off this big win, and it's a short week. So I would expect the Packers game to be close. Even the Packers are bad. They are like they're just
they're
bad.
not. They're not. What do they say? What do the kids say? Down bad, Chief. Like that. That's the Packers right now.
Yeah,
They're down bad, Chief.
Yeah, they're. I think I saw an article today about like 5 replacements for Matt LaFleur, and I'm like, wow, we are
We're really down.
we're really getting ahead of ourselves here.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed a little bit of Schadenfreude over the weekend, actually, after the Packer game.
I saw that. Yeah.
And one guy said he was drinking in a Culver's parking lot until he fell asleep.
I think somebody responded, asked like, yeah, but was he a Packers fan? So like,
what do you think about the game? Yeah. Just sitting there going like, no, sir, you can't have a triple curder burger.
Right.
We need you to sign a waiver for that.
But I do agree with you. Like, yeah, we've been here before, and we're going to talk probably about Kirk Cousins in a little bit. But it's the same thing with him. Where like we've seen similar performances from him, like this, like last night, where he puts up good big numbers and the Vikings get a nice win, and then either the next week or in another important game, he comes up short. So like we need to see more of this, and I'm sure that's the message that's being thrown around with the Vikings. But now they have no excuses. They just beat arguably the best team in the NFL. McCaffrey was still out there, Purdy was still out there, Brent Ayuk was still out there. Pretty much their whole defense was still out there. So it's not like the injuries had a huge effect on how they played. Maybe you could argue that on the offense side of the ball, but defense should have been fine. And they they ripped apart their defense. They had over 450.
They could have won that game by multiple scores.
Yeah.
And like the fact usually you have a game like that and you don't feel satisfied. Like what's your problem? Like last night, I walked away from that game thinking, yeah, the offense did their job. Like that was a very good performance against a very good defense. That was healthy, by the way.
Right.
So, you mentioned Kirk Cousins a little bit, and I think that is another, the quarterback.
Never heard of him. Nobody ever talks about him.
1 minute he's forcing passes to KJ Osborne in the end zone, and the next he's lighting up the Eagles in garbage time. Then he can't hear the play calls. He's dropping a dime to Justin Jefferson. He's throwing the ball in bounds on a 2-minute drill, which
he did again last night.
Thank God for Jordan Addison, because if that play goes any variety of different outcomes, like we're having a different conversation because Jordan Addison made a hell of a play, ripped it right out of Tavarius Ward's hands and raced to the end zone. It was in bounds with 10 seconds and no timeouts after about 2 or 3 passes in bounds with 30 seconds on the clock. Like I got to throw it to the open guy. You're covering the sidelines.
Yeah, why do you think they're open?
Yeah. Like, let's think about this here, Kirk. Anyway, like my overall fear is that that last night was the game that decided the Vikings are going to give him $40 million. No. And we're going to go through this roller coaster over and over and over again. And it's exhausting. It's tiring. Kirk Cousins played the game of his life. Like, I will give him all the credit in the world because he was awesome last night. He was great under pressure. He was great when he was kept clean. He was not a product of what was going on in the field. Kirk Cousins balled out. But now I worry, like, does he go and piss himself at Lambeau? Or, I mean, you go to Cincinnati later in the year. That's going to be a big game, probably the way this season's shaping up. And you have the 2 games against Detroit. Does he rise to the occasion, or do we see more, I didn't get the timeout to the play call. And
he's been pretty good against the Lions, though, historically.
He has.
But yeah, he didn't get in his own head yesterday. I think that was one of the most impressive things. He could have sulked after that first pick, which I'm going to say he probably knew that wasn't my fault. Jordan Addison just got the ball ripped out of his hand. I would say Kirk Cousins might have taken himself out of the Vikings price range next year with last night. Because if you look at it, he can go to free agency, and someone as who needs a quarterback who thinks he could be the final piece to getting a championship or getting over the hump could pay him a lot of money, and probably more than the Vikings either want to or are willing to pay him. So I think Kirk Cousins is getting, probably, even if they want to bring him back, I think he's getting out of the price range. And I'm okay with that because he's been there this is sixth season. They have one playoff win. And it didn't work. So move on. Whatever you got to do next year, if you got to have like a little stopgap year with somebody to save some more money and get some more draft picks, and then whatever, or you trade for somebody that's younger and still has potential to do something, go ahead and do that. But I don't think this game changes Kirk Cousins' future with the Vikings at all, unless he's like, I'll play for $10 million, which he's not gonna do.
It's also weird to me because watching Kevin O'Connell's speech, which those just make me laugh more than anything, because everybody's like, I gotta see the Kevin O'Connell speech.
In the locker room,
they're the same thing every week.
Yeah.
Where it's just like,
you get a game ball, you get a game ball, you get a game ball.
30 minutes ago, I had to go to the bathroom. I had Chipotle for lunch today. It was a bad decision. I went in the bathroom. I looked for some toilet paper. They didn't have any. Juan, the janitor, he threw some to me, but it was one ply, and I kind of just had to do it. And you know what we did? We finished the job, and we went ahead, and we got that fucking... Yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I don't know. Usually there's an F-bomb, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got the prerequisites out of the way.
Yeah.
Like during that post-game speech, it just seemed like, hey, Kirk's our guy. Let's rally around him. And like, just looking at that in my fragile state, I'm just like, do not. I don't care if he takes this team in the NFC Championship game. Do not pay him $40 million guaranteed 3-year deal or whatever. Like, don't. And he's not going to take anything less is the thing. Because like you said, there are teams out there that watch. You want to tell me Kyle Shanahan's not going to try and push for him one last time after last night?
I don't know.
I know Brock Purdy looked good, but...
Well, you look at a team like
Little Red Dress.
I don't know, the Raiders, Patriots. There's a lot of teams out there, and there's going to be more teams that need quarterbacks next year. There's always teams that need the Giants. They don't want Daniel Jones. There's going to be a lot of teams that need someone, or at least think they need someone like Kirk Cousins. They're going to get mesmerized by the box score, just like the Vikings did, and they're gonna be like, we can get this guy, add him, and he's gonna take us to the promised land. And they're gonna be like, shit.
He's 37. Oh, this isn't going well.
But you know what? And this isn't even to say like the Vikings need to get rid of him. He's terrible because he's playing very well this year. I think he's second in the league in passing, either tied or leading the league in touchdown passes. He's having a very good season, but it's just more, but they're also 3-4. So it's just more to show you that like it doesn't matter how good his numbers are. If they don't translate to wins, then he's not your guy. So I don't. Yeah, unless they win the Super Bowl, I still don't see any
NFC
reason to bring him back.
Championship game, maybe. Feel like if they get to the Super Bowl, they'll at least give them like a 2-year.
I'll wait till we get there.
Let's see.
I'm not going to
hold
my
what
breath.
happens.
Let's get two playoff wins for the first time since 1987.
Well, to do that, they'd have to make the playoffs,
right?
And if they do that, they'll have to go through a stretch that looks pretty good because the Vikings right now are 3-4. They are 1 game out of the 7th seed in the NFC. I believe it's a half game. I wrote it down wrong. They're a game and a half behind Seattle for the 5th seed. And they're 2 games back to the Lions for the NFC North lead, with 2 games to play in the Lions in the final 3 games of the season. The Vikings will also play 5 of their next 6 games against teams that are under 500. So my question to you, do you think the Vikings can make a run?
I do, and especially because I just looked up the New York Times playoff probability article that they have. They update it each week, and the Vikings now have a 57% chance to make the playoffs.
But Justin Jefferson's a genetic freak. And
Correct.
never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they can. I think this upcoming weekend will tell us a lot more about the Vikings, and if Monday was a fluke or whatever, or if they were frauds. People like to toss that word around with the Vikings. Um, but yeah, I think playoffs are realistic. Do I think that making a run towards the playoffs is the best decision for the future of the franchise? Probably not. But can they still build for their future if they make the playoffs? Yeah, I do. And also winning like that and getting to the playoffs like that, it also attracts free agents and things like that. They want to go to a place where, the team continues to try and win and there's a winning culture and things like that. Um, so yeah, I think playoffs are really realistic. Um, I think winning the division is still realistic. The Lions just got killed. Just lost
Yeah.
by 32 points. I know the Ravens are good, but the Lions are supposed to be way better than that. They look like the old Lions on Sunday. So I don't think the division's out of the question yet because they still have to play the Lions twice. They still have to play the Packers twice. Still have to play the Bears one more time. Like division's still up for grabs to me. And we've talked about the Lions before in the past. Like this is the Lions. Like great, they're 5-1 in October. Who cares? Like still have plenty of time to screw up, and it looks like they are. At least they're not getting any help from Jameson Williams. He looks like a great selection, by the way.
So does Lewis Seen, but go on.
Well, I'll say this about Lewis Seen. Andrew Bynum is
Fire away.
not Andrew Bynum. He played for the Lakers. Cam Bynum is playing very well this year. Lewis Seen is not benching Harrison Smith. Lewis Seen is not benching Cam Bynum. Should he probably be on the bench? Yeah, he should. But maybe there's some other things behind the scenes too that we don't know with like his injury recovery from last year or whatever. But the fact that Cam Bynum is playing as well as he has makes me feel a little bit better about Lewis Seen. It's still, whatever you want to say, he's a bust, fine. He's not playing, he's inactive, that's fine. But he was picked 32nd, and Jameson Williams was picked 12th.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be way more pissed if my pick at number 12 looked like the way that Jameson Williams looks compared to
After giving that capital up.
what Lewis Seen is doing, because Jameson Williams, I think he's caught 23% of his targets in the NFL. That is not good. That's like 7th round pick, like undrafted pick percentage. Like
he's one of those guys that teams look at and they'll be like, well, he's fast, so we can use him like Tyreek Hill. Like the whole use him like Debo thing. That was a while ago. Like, teams will find a fast guy and they'll just be like, oh yeah, he could run like Tyreek Hill. It's like, no, there's nobody like Tyreek Hill.
Darius Hayward-Bay,
Troy
Schad Perriman. There's people fall in love with the speed and forget about the very important thing to have when you're a receiver is the ability to catch.
The ability
very important part of
get open as well.
Yeah, yeah. And Jordan Addison can do that. He can get open.
He can do that very well. I wondered aloud whether this team was like the 2020 Vikings when people start talking about the playoffs. Because if you remember that team, they started 1-5. They won 5 of their next 6 games. They lost 3 straight, including one on Christmas to Sean Payton, which Santa might as well just taking a shit in my stocking.
Destroyed.
They were annihilated. I think that was the game Mike Zimmer said, "Yep, I have a bad defense."
Well, they were playing with like 3rd and 4th stringers on defense.
Yeah, so. it was bad. I feel like this team is way different because you look at that 2020 team. That offensive line was garbage because you had Dakota Dozier and Drew Samia at right guard. Garrett Bradbury was struggling in his second year, and Riley Reif was your left tackle, and he was declining.
Who was left guard?
Ezra Cleveland. No, Ezra Cleveland was right guard.
Yeah.
Was Dozier left guard then? He had to have been. It had to have been Samia.
Oh,
And,
yeah, look it up.
yeah. Huh. That's interesting because they started Ezra Cleveland out at right guard and went to left guard because he was from the left side. That's how the old regime rolled. They just kind of drew shit out of a hat and just like, hey, there's our offensive line. The defense was even worse, by the way. They were third all time in franchise history in points allowed and fifth in yards allowed. Meanwhile, you have Brian Flores out here turning chicken, you know what, into chicken salad. I guess that's my phrase of the day. But it's almost like. Cecil Lamby on the Audible said something last week, like the Eddie Murray, Eddie Murray's a baseball player. Eddie Murphy, talking feed a starving man a cracker. It's like you give him a cracker and he's like, oh, is this saltine? Is this? This is a Ritz. This is the best damn thing I've ever had. What is this? That's basically the defense right now because they're 21st in points allowed. They're 23rd in yards allowed, but they're still 12th in yards per play. And they're in the middle of the pack in sacks and pressure rate. And then we've already mentioned the offense. I mean, Addison's better than Adam Thielen right now, even though he's not from Minnesota and he got that speeding ticket.
Wow. Look. Compare their numbers, okay? Compare their numbers.
Well, watch the tape, which Adam Thielen.
Yeah, watch.
Oh, you nerds looking at the tape don't even see my stats.
But I bet he enjoyed last night's game.
He's not getting opportunities though.
Last night he was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Like,
I could have done that. Yeah. TJ Hawkinson better than Irv Smith Jr. I think wasn't Kyle Rudolph still on the Vikings in 2022?
He was.
Yeah.
That was his last season.
I think
he had one touchdown catch.
And remember that scheme was basically run Dalvin 40 times and see what happens. Even in overtime against the Jaguars where they were at like the one and there were penalties and there were everything else. And it was like, we got to get a touchdown. It's just like, kick the damn field goal, dude. I know you don't like kickers, but Jesus Christ, just win the game. But I mean, I'm not trading anyone from this team now. And I'm also not investing assets to get anyone on this team. I think I'm just riding with what I have. And, hopefully you get Justin Jefferson back in 3 weeks and, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. It's a matter of consistency at this point.
That's the smart approach to not be buyers now. Because I think a lot of people have been like, well, no, instead of trading guys, now they can trade 4 guys. And I'm just like, yeah, but they need those picks. They have a lot of holes still. They need those picks to fill some spots in the roster. A bunch of guys will be leaving next year. So like they won last night, but they're still 3-4. They are not 5-1. They are not 5-2. They're 3-4. If they were at the top of the NFC and they won last night, then I'd be like, yes, go ahead, buy, trade for somebody. You are close. Go after it. You never know when this is going to happen again. Which was why I was fine last year when they did it when they got Hawkinson, because I'm like, you guys your record is great. This could be just a magical year. Go for it. It doesn't happen like we've seen already this year. It doesn't happen all the time. So, but the smart approach this year would probably be to keep your assets and also, keep the guys that are playing well for you right now, like Danielle Hunter, and who else would they trade? Anybody want Ezra Cleveland? He's available.
KJ Osborne, come on down.
Alexander Madison.
Anyone?
Yeah. So Danielle Hunter, I feel like is safe now. He doesn't have to think about looking for homes in Jacksonville or somewhere else.
And the thing with Danielle Hunter, I think they should just sign him at this point. He's
playing very well.
Figure something. I'm going to lean back on Vikings history a little bit. The Vikings had this deal with Chris Dolman as he entered his 30. I think he was a little bit older than Danielle is now, but it was one of those deals where it was like, hey, he's about to hit the age cliff. Like, let's get rid of him. And
he's still playing
well. Guys, they spent the rest of the 90s like trying to replace him. Like they wound up just bringing him back in 1999 because like, yeah, we can't find it. Derek Alexander can't do it.
With the Falcons, right?
Yeah. Got traded for the Falcons. I think one of those picks was David Palmer, who would have been he would have been interesting in today's NFL, but
oh yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting one because I think pass rushers are one of the positions you should pay for. The thing you might have to worry about is Brian Flores possibly leaving in the offseason
Yeah.
because the way he has this defense playing, teams are going to be interested in him in the offseason for head coach openings. Now, something that could be in the Vikings' favor is the fact that he still has a lawsuit against the NFL, and that's still going on. And I don't know how many teams would be willing to hire him while that's still happening. But there could be some other. I'm going to assume that Jim Harbaugh is going to be available to hire.
That is something wild. Like,
did the Vikings dodge a bullet with that one, or
people also talking about JJ McCarthy being the quarterback.
I don't think so.
I kind of want to see what's going on there before we invest the
let
top 10 pick on
let him try for another team first.
Yeah. Just see what happens. Anything else in closing you got on your mind?
No. It's just it's weird because oh man.
Adam might not make it.
This is a good win.
This is such a good win, man.
It's weird how we have to completely flip this week to go to I know I just said they should keep their assets, but there's still going to be speculation about players they could trade for to even just even players on a smaller scale that could help them as far as depth wise goes. It's weird to just be okay, I guess we might be trading for people now instead of trading away people. And we've been writing about them trading away guys for the last month and a half, and now it's well, why don't they see what they can get? So yeah, and the focus on the drafts that was pretty heavy the last few weeks. I feel like that's not going to be as heavy moving forward. There'll still be some some interest, and we'll still write about that. But I don't think Caleb Williams and Drake May are probably in the conversation for the Vikings anymore unless they figure out a way to trade up. That's just what a win because people are oh, they're 3-4 or whatever. Why is that? They could still do terrible, but they just beat it wasn't just a win against the Bears or the Panthers. They just beat one of the best teams. They just beat one of the best teams in the NFL on Monday night when Kirk Cousins struggles, even though he's 5-3 since 2021 on primetime. God, that narrative is getting it. I don't I'm annoyed by it because it's making me defend Kirk Cousins and he's a good guy or whatever, but he's not my favorite quarterback I've ever watched, and I'm just stop saying this narrative he struggles in primetime. It doesn't exist anymore.
Did you listen to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman throughout that game? It's almost like
were Troy they 49ers the entire home time, announced team?
Yeah, it's the whole time Troy Aikman was just well, Kirk Cousins, he's pretty bad in these primetime games. Yeah. It's yeah, okay.
And they talked about they spent time in the game talking about how Mike McDaniel comes from the Kyle Shanahan system, and the whole time it's not his system, it's his dad's system. So he didn't make this up. He stole it from his dad.
It's not as bad as Bob Costas during baseball broadcasts where he's just
God, yeah.
Mark Pryor comes out and he's you remember Bartman? You remember how the sun is just gonna engulf the earth someday?
No, we all forgot about that. Yeah. But it was every tweet after last night was oh, Kirk Cousins won in primetime. I was yeah, they've been doing that for the last 3 seasons. It's a lazy narrative now. Like I said, I'm not I'm not a Kirk Cousins stan, but don't be don't be lazy and be oh, Kirk Cousins finally won in primetime. It's
have you not been paying attention?
Not really. Not clearly.
Well, in some of those games too, were against the Bears, right? Some ugly ass win where everybody just turned it off.
Some were against the Packers, some were against the Patriots on Thanksgiving. I mean, everyone was watching that game.
How do you know? People would have been jacked up on tryptophan, maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
Napping after eating their weight in turkey and mashed potatoes.
And even against the Eagles earlier this year, they lost by what, 6?
But that game was over at 24-7. Here I am poking holes in everything. But I mean, seriously.
Well, that was a lot. 2 other losses come against the Eagles. So, you could say Kirk Cousins is 5-1 in primetime against teams not named the Philadelphia Eagles.
I don't know. I must be a hater, but I would argue too. People only use the word hater when they know they're wrong. Like DeAndre Hopkins, I'm gonna prove everybody wrong, and the haters.
Yeah. Like, what did I think I tweeted out or X'd or whatever the fuck it is now. That last night, like, Kevin O'Connell and Quasito Fomensa have been able to do something in a season and a half that Rick Spielman wasn't able to do in 11 seasons as GM. And that was fix the offensive line. Everyone's like, oh, well, those are Rick's players he drafted. And I'm like, yeah, but you still have to hire the right head coach and hire the right coaching staff.
They drafted Ed Ingram too.
Correct. And they signed Dalton Reisner. You have to have the right system and the right coaches to get the most out of those offensive players. Because Rick Spielman drafted plenty of guys that were high. And the Vikings coaching staff under him was never able to get anything out of those guys. So that matters too. Like, I understand Rick Spielman drafted those guys. Great, he did. But you also have to make sure you have the correct people in place to get the most out of those guys, which is what the Vikings have right now. So yeah, less than a year and a half, offensive line is fixed. 11 years with Spielman, he had no idea what to do.
Same with the quarterback, but
yeah,
I'm still waiting on that one.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. $45 million. So what was my Twitter count? I think
45. That's a bargain.
I think we went up to 80 last night while I was sitting there like all angry. I think I probably got blocked by some people.
I think he might be looking for 50 a year.
That's what I would do. I would look at Andrew. I would look at Daniel Jones and just go, yeah, I'm better than him.
Yeah, listen, at this point in your career, if you're Kirk Cousins, why are you not trying to get the most money? Like, when's the next time you're going to even get this opportunity? He should. I have no problems with him going out and getting as much money as possible.
Right.
He's going to, like, you're not going to probably have another opportunity like this. So if it's with the Vikings, please don't sign him to $50 million a year contract. But if he wants to get that somewhere else, have fun. Just be like the modern day Sam Brown.
Be like the Twins. Well, we were in on him. We were in on Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
I shouldn't badmouth the Twins. They won a playoff game.
They did. They won a series.
Until they don't make the playoffs next year, then we can go hard.
They won
on
a
that.
series, right?
They did win a playoff series. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the moral of the story for me. You can always be proven wrong because that's why they play the games. Hey, before I let you go, what's going on at the Viking age right now?
Well, I talked about how we have to pivot after last night and just refocus on players that the Vikings might be able to acquire before the trade deadline instead of move on from. Trade deadlines next Tuesday. Halloween will be a spooky day. And then we'll still focus some stuff on the draft, but not as much as we would have if they lost last night. So
we're just more prepared now.
Let's just say it that way. Yeah, and it's a different tone moving forward, at least for this week.
Yes.
And we're going to try and take advantage of that before maybe the world comes crumbling back down next week, because there is that potential, unfortunately.
And you also had a Twitter change, didn't you?
I did. I decided to. I still own the straight cash homie handle. I made sure to store that away before anyone else got it. But I'm professional now. I have a real name. After 15 years on Twitter of being straight cash homie, I now have a real name. So sad day, but I felt like it had to be done.
It is easier to find out, though. How do I follow Adam Patrick NFL instead? Well, it's capital STR &8. Maybe one day I'll do that too, because people are always like, why are you Schad? Like, what does it make sense? I will tell the origin story. When I was in high school, we were watching basketball, NBA on NBC. I don't know if we'll get sued for me doing that, but that's okay. Anyway, we were watching, and Ahmad Rashad, Vikings legend, was the sideline reporter, and my friend pointed at the TV and he said, Ahmad Krishad. And then after a while, Ahmad got dropped and people started calling me Krishad, and it confused the hell out of everyone. My mom told me a story actually of her going to a parent teacher conference with my Spanish teacher and her saying, because like I was on, this is going to sound snooty. I was on like our high school would always have, it was called the Rocket Report, and we'd read all the announcements.
Mhm.
And I would do the sports. So I'd cut up highlights. That's kind of how I got my start and wanted to do broadcast journalism. So it was always Chris Schad with sports. So my Spanish teacher would sit down with my parents and go, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Schad, what do you, and like my parents are just like, it's Schad. Like, what are you doing? And like, okay, Mrs. Schad. So yeah, that was always a good one. Maybe one day I will get my own professional nickname, but for now I'm just going to live like a immature asshole on all social media channels. But that is all the time we have for the Viking Age podcast today. We do this every Monday and Thursday right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel, but we're also on Apple and Spotify the very next day. However you consume us, don't forget to rate, comment, like, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. For Adam Patrick, I am Chris Schad, and this has been the Viking Age Podcast.